Hey there, everybody. My name's Pete Bogdanov. I'm here with Dave.
Dave G in the place to be.
And together we are Middle-Minded. All right, we are going to have a gigantic one today. We're going to hit a subject that is so controversial to so many people, and we're just going to hit it right on the head, try to be middle-minded about what we're doing. We're talking about abortion today. We're talking about baby killing. Is it murder or is this just health care? That's what we're going to get into. And one of the things we're going to start with is something I absolutely hate, and I'm willing to say it on camera. It is not pro-choice or pro-life. This is not a black or white subject. This is a middle-minded subject. This is for every human that lives, because guess what we all have in common, Dave? You weren't aborted.
No, I wasn't, Pete.
I wasn't aborted.
No, you weren't.
I wasn't killed. It wasn't health care. I'm here talking because my mother had a child. And she probably shouldn't have, because I was born 11 months after my sister. So she was literally not pregnant for 2 months, and boom, here comes me.
I thank my mother every year for having me. It's a tradition I started back, I don't know, 10 or so years ago, maybe even more, 15 now, I think. And I was drunk and called up my mom and said, "Hey, thanks for having me, Mom, but it's true. What if she aborted me? I wouldn't be here, wouldn't be sitting here talking to you, wouldn't be talking to you."
And it's not controversial. It doesn't matter where you stand on pro-choice or pro-life. If you're in the conversation, you have to be pro-life to some extent, because you're here and you're alive and you're talking and you were not aborted. So we're going to start with, this isn't about black or white. This isn't pro-life or pro-choice. Most of us are in the middle on this subject matter. So today we got something a little bit in mind. Both of us are musicians. Both of us are small business owners here in San Francisco. And together we met as musicians. Dave's a drummer, bass player. I think he plays guitar as well. I just have a really big mouth. I'm a lead vocalist. So we're going to use one of my songs. It's called Cast a Stone. In simple terms, let somebody step up and throw a stone who wants to say they don't have sin. So we're going to listen to the track. We're going to mull over the poeticness, the overall composition of the music, because we are musicians. And then we're going to start our conversation based on this music and this piece of artwork. How does it inspire us to talk about abortion? All right, without further ado, we're going to listen to some music. This is my song, so I do hope you guys like it. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear in the comments what you all think of the music. After all, it is an art form of mine doing music. I am the vocalist that you're going to hear. And, Dave does actually critique a lot of my recorded music. He's one of my go-to, hey, listen to this, let me know what you think. So we're going to listen to this track. We're going to get into it and get in a conversation when it's done. So without further ado, go ahead and hit play.
We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for.
Alive, go figure. I throw chaos at a thunderstorm and wonder why I'm lost in the wind. I went to walk on water, ended up taking another swim. I stand at the head of the line, but I can't cast a stone at your sin. I'm breaking all the rules for a life that won't begin. I blow a kiss to destiny and see just where we've been. Does life give us choices, or have we already been aimed at the end? They won't call it murder, killing for the win. I'm just another coward, bowing to a trend. Dos Vidania, Dos Vidania. Here to take the life of a son or a daughter. Dos Vidania. We dug that hole deep, fits you and your trauma. Dos Vidania, Dos Vidania. Time to go and console your mama. Dos Vidania, Dos Vidania, Dos Vidania. Like a dragonfly. I'm a sniper in the sky. My kill rate is so super motherfucking high. I thought I was a pimp and I was so super fly. Thought I was a hero. I'm another grown man that cries. I was begging for death cause there was nothing left. Fuck my motherfucking feelings. It's time to go in depth. Let me introduce you to my homie Death.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's play Russian roulette. Let's make some love and place our bets. Don't stress on the wager, just the leaves and not the trees that are in danger.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
The birdies won't fall, they won't even see the nest. You can look back at life and still know that you passed the test. You're not alone, you're just like the rest. I never even heard my baby's breath.
Dose Vidania.
Here to take the life of a son or a daughter. Dose Vidania. We dug that hole deep, fits you and your trauma. I stand on the line of choice. I'm here to give fathers a voice. It's your body and it's your choice. But ladies, that's our offspring that never even got a voice. And you know exactly what I mean. We killers and we killers by tag team. You see, it takes two to be obscene. It takes two, one the opposite of you, baby boo. Ladies, we lose a child when we lose one inside of you. Dose Vidania. Here to take the life of a son or a daughter. Dose Vidania. We dug that hole deep, fits you and your trauma. Dose Vidania. Dose Vidania. Time to go and console your mama. Dose Vidania. Dose Vidania. Murder ain't the case that they gave me. Oh Lord, I wonder, can you save me?
I think that's the line that hit me the most when I did this song is 30 years later, 32 years, however long it's been since this incident in my life, and I still have guilt, I have shame, I have wonder, like, was this my Michelangelo? Was this an Einstein? Was this my... these are children that we create. I have 3 children that I've created with another human being, and it's powerful. When you have children, you understand how powerful that is. And I wonder if, I'm not religious in the Christian sense or Muslim sense or Jewish, but I was raised in the Christian church. I have values that are molded from Christian values about not cheating on your wife and not stealing and murdering. And 30 years later, I got to wonder if God's going to judge me for taking out something that he clearly said was not a mistake. I was in love, and I had a baby with somebody I was in love with, and I was just scared. We literally were just scared financially. We weren't ready for it. I already had a child, so I already was a single father and already lived up to that moment. But here it is, I cowered away from it, and the end of that song is about my cowardice and how it feels. It is emotional. I'm emotional right now because I'll never know. That is something that I don't get back. And you can talk pro-choice, you can talk pro-life, but you can't talk out my feelings. This is how I feel 30-something years later. And it's important for people to know you can make this choice. But if you think you're escaping the consequences of your own emotions, you're wrong. What do you say, Dave?
Yeah, no, that I was thinking, like, I've always been, pro-choice. That's just what I've been. And never really thought about it in that sense until I had kids. And to think, if my wife was to get pregnant now, we're both older, it probably wouldn't be the best thing. I don't honestly want another kid. I have 2. It's hard enough with 2 this day and age. It's expensive. We know that. So when you did point out the financial part, I definitely want to touch on that later. But, going back to just your feelings, now having 2 children, to know that if I were to abort one, or my wife was to abort one, that would be getting rid of potentially one of the 2 beautiful things that I
You
have right now as my children, who I love
that
immensely.
you will die for.
And
in most cases,
I think, yeah, no, 100%. I think that's something that when you don't have children, you don't think about. And so my views haven't changed as far as like when we say pro-choice, and we'll get into the wording later in the episode. I do still think it should be everybody's choice to do that. But you are 100% right. There are consequences, and since I haven't lived through that, I can just imagine what your emotions are for that, and they're totally valid. I can tell you I would feel the same thing. I know I would. And that being said, I'm going to just touch quickly on something, because we had my second child was through IVF. And we tried for a long time and couldn't have one. And we already had a girl. And out of all the embryos, we had one boy. And I thought, well, it's the perfect world. You have a girl and a boy. And I did want it. I wanted a son. I wanted to see how both a son and a daughter
a whole
are.
other conversation.
Right, I know. I'm going to try to touch it.
When you talk about the gender thing, now you've chosen the gender of your child. What if it's wrong and they grow up one day and say, "Whoa, I'm really supposed to be a girl, Dad"?
I know that's another another whole subject that we'll eventually get to. And no, thanks for sharing that. We're not going to go off on a tangent on this one for sure. But I did just want to say that. So we did. We were told that, okay, you have a male embryo that is not that great rated, and that doesn't mean that they would turn out bad. It just means that that probably won't take. The chances of it taking were about upper 60s to 70%, and we had two really good chances with girls. And then some more girls that were not as good quality. So we tried with the boy. We put it in. Didn't work. And so we said, okay, Doc, let's do the best rated girl, the one you think will have the most chance. So that's my daughter now. And even to think about that is, what if the male took and I had a son now, I wouldn't have that incredible daughter. And like in hindsight, looking at it,
you're
it's
already
like
playing God with like
it
which
is.
one's
It's
viable, which one's not viable.
It does already fuck with me in the head a little bit, because we had more embryos. We have more that is a potential another little girl, or obviously it's a girl because I was the only one. And so and we got this one. That one was lucky, I guess, because we're not going to use the other ones.
Yeah.
So that one was lucky. And where was that decision? Like, that was this is why I feel like I can bring this up, because it touches on the same aspects of abortion. But that little one, there's another little one that I'll never see, I'll never know what is. And that even affects me a little bit.
People get into that argument where they go clump of cells and, you don't know, or you don't. And I think it's one of those, we need to shut that kind of talk down. Like, quit talking in the 1%. Quit talking in the fringes. That's not the conversation. Abortion for 99% of us is not rape or incest or a Down syndrome child in the womb, or maternal issues. There are a large proportion, but that's not the most proportion of this. And I think the song, and getting us back to just being musicians and artists, is not talking about those fringes. It's talking about a normal human being going through this decision and the options that are presented to us. Are they normalized? Are we normalizing the killing of our babies to the point that the stats are, they say 1 in 4 is aborted. So for every 4 children, there's an abortion. And we'll go into some of these stats and things, but I want to go back to the beginning of the song because I like that. Like, I'm not the one doing the poetry about humans being alive, and he's really going on why do we listen to poetry, and it's because we're alive and we're supposed to enjoy life. And I start laughing and I say, alive, go figure, because to enjoy this poetry, you have to have not been aborted. You have to be alive. And I'm curious, I think that was the most powerful part of the song, where I go from this poetry to laughing about being alive. And then I go into my probably the most poetic verse where I'm talking about my own personal life without being so literal. You can cast a stone if you don't have sin. And I'm saying that I can't cast that stone because I was pro-choice, so I can't get up here and throw a rock at someone and say pro-life. The beginning of the song, that poetry from someone else to my laughing to the first part of the song, what hit you there? If anything.
I mean, no, I did like the first part, like, what's life? But I think just your statement about casting judgment and that, you know, you're setting yourself up that you can't cast that judgment because you have sinned. I mean, that's kind of and for you to, and I know you don't preach pro-life, but
I'm not pro-lifer. I think there's a lot of beautiful things by people that say we should cherish life. I think if society made it about face and started caring about life, we would also probably care about keeping our legs shut until we were financially responsible to have life. We would probably make better choices with sexuality and just this open-ended. It's the greatest things humans can do is express their sexuality, and it's only 1% of our life that we involve. We spend a third of our life sleeping, for God's sake. We spend another third working. We spend another huge percentage eating. So by the time you get down to how much time you're actually ejaculating, it's less than 1%. Yet we put all this importance on it. We put this cultural acceptance of abortion, but we could easily be a more life-protecting entity as human beings, and we could change our habits so we're more protective of having pregnancy. I laugh because one of the things they bring up is just put it in her butt and you can have anal sex and not worry about being pregnant. But doesn't this speak to an overabundance of sexuality? Like, God forbid you just don't have sex for a little while?
Yeah, I don't think is abstinence the right choice, though? I think education and knowing, there's other ways to protect yourself other than from getting pregnant, other than abstinence. There's many things now, so I don't think that's as much as it's a nice moral road to take. I don't know if it's either feasible or the right way to go. But
what do you think about? Because I'm curious, just as a musician poet. I introduce the devil, and I say that only the leaves are in, it's not the trees and the branches that are in question. When you do an abortion, you're only getting rid of a leaf of the human thing. So I'm saying that let's go ahead and make love, and let's place our bets. It's only the leaves and not the trees that are in danger. That's when I do the Will Robinson, danger, danger. And that's my fear, is that we're treating this like it's just the leaves and the forest isn't in danger. Like trees would decide to kill other trees instead of creating a forest. Like, I don't know in natural instances that this occurs, but for human beings, we've made this a choice. And I fear that although I'm pro-choice, I am very much in alignment with a pro-life sentiment that says we need to be a whole lot more careful and not just treat intercourse like pregnancy isn't one of the consequences we know about, because nobody wants to talk about the choice you had. You could have chose not to have intercourse. And you didn't. You chose to have it anyways. And then are we using this health care as just an excuse to be irresponsible?
So
that's what that lyric in the song is about.
I'm 100% for not using abortion as a form of birth control. And I think there's many on the left who feel the same way. Again, is abstinence the right way? For some, I'm sure it is. For others, maybe not. I mean, there are condoms. There are I almost said IEDs. Those will blow you up.
I mean, what's wrong with
IUDs.
blowjobs? I love blowjobs. I can have blowjobs every day and not even have intercourse. I'd probably be happier, and I'll say it. I do. I love getting a blowjob more than I probably do intercourse. I don't need to go into the reasons, but there's all kinds of options we have
There are.
to not impregnate a girl.
Sure.
Like just watching her cycle. It's not,
Yeah.
They've been doing that for human existence. Been watching a woman cycle. That means, no, you can't have sex during this week. And like, you're still deciding to do it even though you know you're at risk.
I think there's, and I think there's definitely, there's ways to do it that are less risky. Again, condoms. Never. I mean, sure, it can break, and then you run that risk. The pill. That too.
Let's not go into the pill. You know, I have 3 children, and all 3 women were on the pill when I had my children. I either have the super fucking duper Superman spunk, or they're lying about the viability of the pill. Either that or the women that I had children with lied to me. So, what is it?
I mean,
I have super spunk.
I don't know.
That's what I think it is.
Probably. That's
Yeah,
probably
I mean,
what it
I've
is.
had a vasectomy, and if my wife got pregnant, even though she's had some medical, she can't have kids either. Like, I wouldn't put it past us having kids at our age, just because how the hell did it happen 3 times on the pill?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I've been lucky. I don't know. But there were, and not to switch gears, but there were definitely times in my life where I would have not been ready. And I just happened to be ready when I was, and I was later in life, and that's one of the reasons it probably took a little longer, but...
I think you touched on it, but in the song talks a lot about a father's position. I stand on the line of choice. I'm here to give fathers a voice. That's my offspring that never even got a voice. And that's a true statement. These are men give life. We are the energy spark. Eggs are dormant. Without the energy that comes from male sperm, we actually are the givers of life. Women are the incubators of that life, and then they carry it. So moms get a lot of responsibility on that whole pro-choice argument, but it takes 2 to tango, and a lot of that song, the ending part of the song, was about, look, it takes 2 of us to get here, but you act like it's just you in a choice when it comes, especially if you're talking politics, and that's one of my things. Yeah. Like, this song was supposed to be written so that people could find a middle point and hear points that they don't normally hear, because music does... It's a conversation where we're allowed to do things in music and art that you are not allowed to do at the public, the town square hall meeting, right? So by using music, we can touch these subjects, and I felt a little protected by using music, so that's when I did it. But as fathers who have had kids and chose to have kids, I think that was a big part of the song for me, and I'm just wondering if you gathered that from it, or...
Yeah, I definitely did, and I think, and I agree with the fact that the guy doesn't seem to get much choice a lot of times. But I also think, like, if that had happened to me when I was younger, I'd have been like, I'm cool with you with not having it, and so. I probably, and I can guarantee you, I would have hoped that they wouldn't want to keep the child. Yeah. But even after having kids, I can still go back and say that wasn't. I would feel that. I feel justified in feeling that way.
I think a lot of people feel, and that's one of those parts of conversations I want to stop it, because having not felt ready, it was wrong. First of all, I already had a kid. Second of all, I already had a successful business. I owned a house at the time. My wife had a job. Like, there wasn't actually reasons that said we weren't ready. But one of the things, I was listening to a podcast, this happened to be a Christian guy, and he was explaining to young men that don't wait for the career and get the money before you get the wife. It's actually, if you get the woman, you're going to work hard enough to get the life. That men have a tendency to once we attach to a woman and fall fall in love, it's like a statistical proven fact that we earn more money at that point. That once the responsibility comes, the earning comes after. So this idea that we wait until we're financially ready actually is completely and utterly debunked with our own stats on love and marriage, and that most men who are forced to have that child, whether they chose to say yes or no to an abortion and they have the child, they then rise to the financial situation. To give you a little insight, after my abortion, how many months was it before I had my son? 3 months. 3 months later, she was pregnant again. And we had my firstborn son. So what was different about me being financially ready over 3 months? You know what was different? The guilt and shame I felt for doing the first one, knowing I shouldn't have. This was the love of my life. This is a woman that I would go on to spend 30 years with. So I was ready. And I think we keep telling ourselves that as modern humans, we have to financially be ready. But stats prove that what makes you ready is having the child.
Yeah, I think a lot. Mine was not only just I wasn't financially ready. I was partying, drinking all the time.
You were an alcoholic.
I was not ready at the time. I mean, could have that changed it? Maybe, and maybe that would have been what I needed to get out of that phase. You never know. But also, I was never presented, I was never presented that with anyone anyway, but more so it wasn't with my wife that I'm with. So I think that's, in a way, slightly different, but again, doesn't take away from anything.
I guess I'm just romantic. I believe human beings can be better. And there's a reason I'm not pro-choice, but there's also a reason you won't see me at a pro-choice rally, and that is, even if we use this as health care, I think human beings should talk about being better. There is, I was irresponsible as a young male. I definitely got around and played the field and was known for my one-night stands, and here I am. Like, who am I to have gone out and frolicked like this and then now come back and say, you can't do this, abortion's wrong. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a middle ground subject. I think it's great for middle-minded because we can talk about the gray areas without being so glued to pro-choice or so glued to pro-life that you lose common sense.
I think one of the biggest reasons is it's gotten politicized. If you're a liberal, if you're on the left, you got to be pro-choice. If you're on the right, if you're conservative, you have to be pro-life. And there's no, you can be both. You can see. This is why I don't like calling it pro-choice and pro-life, because there's tons of people who I know that are pro-life that don't want people to have abortions, that are 100% for the death penalty. How can you call yourself pro-life? Same thing with calling it pro-choice.
So you wouldn't abort Jeffrey Dahmer when you found out he was eating everybody and tattoos don't taste good? Like he doesn't deserve the death penalty? I think that's a lot different than a child that didn't get a voice.
Well, it's two different.
The comparisons
that's why I say I don't think it should be called pro-life and pro-choice, because it's not. I think it should be either. You can't call it pro-abortion either, because I know a lot of people who are pro-choice who are not pro-abortion.
That was my comment. I was like, I think it should be called what it really is. Let's call it pro-abortion.
But I don't think a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people on the left are pro-abortion. I do, however, think that they want to be able to have the opportunity, or have other people have the opportunity if that arises.
Yeah.
And that's where it's not like, I don't know anyone who, and if there are people out there who feel this way, leave it in the comments, please. I'd love to meet you. But I don't feel that anyone out there is saying, I'm pro-abortion. I want people to just abort people. I just don't. I mean,
I was watching a podcast, a very popular podcast. I won't go into who it was.
Okay.
And there was women on there who were having 7 and 8 abortions, and they were screaming about they're going to have their 9th.
Well,
I mean, a
just
woman
get your-
having 6, 7 abortions. Like, I don't think it's fit, and I don't think this is the fringes. These definitely were not fringe leftists on this show. These were, maybe it was an OnlyFans girl. I don't remember, but it was not it was people screaming for the right to kill their own babies, and it was these women doing it. And was that a fringe?
why not just go and have your tubes tied?
I was
Why
going to
not
say, if
just-
you're at
why-
6 or 7, you
why not-
obviously
yeah.
don't want children. You're not a mother.
Yeah,
So get your tubes tied.
Yeah.
Like,
The-
I've had a vasectomy, and that's why I can say that. Like, I didn't want to have one, but I'd had 3 children, and I was done. I didn't need 4. I ended up adopting a 4th. So I was very reluctant, but I went and did the thing so I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Could make love to my wife, and nothing was going to happen. Ironically, a few months later, it didn't matter, and I didn't have to have a vasectomy, but why not do that responsible choice? So I think we've gone enough on the music side of this. That was Cast of Stone. I will put a link in the bio where you can go listen to the song and hear the lyrics. It is a song that I'm pretty proud of poetically. I think I said what I wanted to say in a manner that I think you're halfway through the song before you even realize it's about abortion. It almost comes across as a gangster murder song because of the way the lyric says "Dos Vidanya," which is
What
Russian.
is that's what I was going to ask you. What
Dos
is that?
Vidanya's Russian for goodbye, sometimes hello, like hello, goodbye, but mostly goodbye. It's,
Like aloha.
Huh?
Like aloha.
It's similar to aloha for Hawaiians, and for Russians, it's what you always hear in the movies. It's the Russian word that's dropped probably more than anything. Is some Russian spy will say "Dos Vidanya" to James Bond, and away you go. For me, it was saying goodbye to this life and let's bury the drama. Dos Vidanya. I don't have to worry about you in my life. That was the part where I did.
Yet you did have to worry because it's haunting you all the time.
Oh, it totally is. I think the ironicness of these decisions is that
you have to live with them.
You have to live with them.
In
And
any
I think it's
decision,
worse for women. I think I'm actually a unicorn amongst men where 32 years later I still have emotions over an abortion. I'll go into... Well, let's actually do. I'm going to stop right now. We're going to enter a different segment. Now we're going to start talking about facts. We're going to concentrate on very specific topics and try to stay on point. The first segment was really about music. How does an artist use poetry and music and style to talk about something controversial? That's what we first talked about. The next thing we're going to go into is let's hit the data. Let's hit the statistics. Let's start talking about the hard subjects one by one. All right, everybody. Now we're going to talk about the whole clump of cells debate. Is a baby at conception a baby, a viable life, an embryo, or like my leftist, blue-haired, screaming people like to say, it's just a clump of cells. I can kill it at inception. And versus what is the other option? What's the other side of it, that this is viable life? So I want to start by obviously stating what I just did, that I do not believe at the inception of life that it is a clump of cells. What I will say is put a woman on this island, put a man on this island, they both have sperm count and ability to have baby, they're fertile, they have a baby, and you don't have a pill and you don't have a doctor to give an abortion, there's a baby coming out. It don't matter where, you can't stop it. Life doesn't stop. Without artificial abortion surgery.
You can kick the woman in the stomach.
Kick her in the stomach, yeah.
There's ways.
Yeah, but that doesn't make the life not viable. It doesn't make the life a clump of cells where you get to forgive yourself of doing what you're doing is killing a viable human life. And all I'm saying in the pro-choice, pro-life argument is call it what it is. If you're killing a baby and you think modern humans should kill babies when it's inconvenient for us to have babies, then just own it. I'll have a whole lot more respect for you.
So do you take where does I get what you're saying, and in your argument, anything is going to be a viable life because let it alone, it will turn into a human life.
Alive.
So, and I can't argue with that.
Instead of stillborn,
I can't. No, yeah. Well, we don't know what can happen after. That's. But yes, in all intents and purposes.
Do you argue that it's just a clump of cells? What do you think about that?
I don't argue that it's a clump of cells at all. I do think that I get both sides. That's why, and that's why I feel like I'm middle-minded in this, because I don't know. Is it murder?
Or health services.
Yeah, but okay, so here, the thing I always think about is if you take a child and you freeze them, you put them in liquid nitrogen, they die. You take a fetus, you put it in liquid nitrogen, it dies. You take an embryo, you put it in liquid nitrogen, it can be thawed out up to 50 years later. They're now saying somebody just had a baby that was frozen for 35 years, since like 1992 or something. And that's crazy, but it can be done. So is that
when
different?
Younger,
it doesn't change.
superhuman.
It doesn't change.
So you say the younger it is, the more human it is.
Yeah,
the more
well, I don't know
ability it
about
has.
human. It's super for sure.
Super life.
Now, yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that you're ending a potential life. 100%. You are ending a potential life.
What's so scary about saying that?
But there's nothing. But I think that also on the pro-life side, the conservative side, if you want to call it, is all about you're murdering babies. I think that's a little exaggerated too. I think you're allowing for a life to not exist.
That's where I have on the pro-life side, I'm like, but what they're saying is actually true. You just don't like it because it's on the opposite. And we are trying to find the middle. Like I started this podcast. This is not pro-choice or pro-life. We strongly disagree with these categories that divide human beings on a subject that all of us talk about, is whether we're alive or whether an abortion happened or something else. But so... yeah, I find it actually weird when I run into a pro-choice person that is so pro-life person, that is so pro-life that they say even in accounts of rape or incest that baby should go to term. I was watching a Charlie Kirk video and they said, oh, and there's a human right over there who was a rape baby, and are you going to tell me that person doesn't deserve to be alive because they were a rape baby? So here was Charlie Kirk talking about a problem with pro-life in that abort it, don't abort it, but it's a rape baby, and normally they say, well, you have the rape babies, and we shouldn't do abortion for those, and I don't understand. That makes me uncomfortable. If somebody rapes my daughter or whatever, I inevitably am getting an abortion, or saying I don't have the choice, right? It's my daughter's body, but I would consult her that is an extreme.
Yeah.
And why are we talking about extremes?
Yeah, I think we're talking about extremes because both sides are on the extreme, and that's that you can't just have a logical conversation like we're trying to have right now. It's either it's black and white, just like you pointed out in the opening segment. It's not. I don't think it's either. I don't think it's murdering babies. I don't think that you should use abortion as a tool of birth control.
My fear is that's what we're doing, is we've normalized aborting babies for reasons like I don't feel ready, or I had a one-night stand, or, and I don't, honestly, these reasons are not good enough reasons to be putting an end to a potential life. Now, that doesn't make me pro-life. Again, I'll admit, I had an abortion. As a father, I said, have it. So I can't be pro-life. I already exercised my choice. I guess to wrap this up, we both said it, that the liberal left talking point that it's just a clump of cells. I think if we're voting, we're saying that's bullshit. It's not a clump of cells. It's a viable life. You're calling it a clump of cells to make you feel good about something that you don't feel good about.
It's a potential life. Yeah, I agree.
On the other side of it, neither one of us are saying pro-life in all instances, and that right-leaning whatever person that says in all circumstances you don't have an abortion, you have the baby. Neither one of us are agreeing with that. I think that's completely full of shit. I'm actually worse than that. I think if you found out that you have a Down syndrome baby or somebody with half a heart, or I knew a kid who was born with half a heart.
Yeah.
He died at like 16 years old, and he spent fucking $20 million with half a heart as he went through life. And am I that cold? And I am. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think humans are too soft. In the wild, these animals would be aborted or disregarded, if you will. The wolf mom is just walking away from the deformed
They
wolf.
wouldn't be aborted. That's the interesting thing.
No, they
wouldn't.
They
right?
come out and then they make the decision.
Then they just kill them.
But we're not animals. We're smarter than animals. We've gone to the moon. We know how to look at an ultrasound. We know how to determine blood tests. We are definitely not animals. That's another leftist argument I absolutely hate, is comparing human beings to monkeys, rats, dogs, Pavlov's frothing dogs, and all these psychiatrists base human psychology on it. Bottom line, is it a clump of cells? Is it pro-life in all occurrences? And what we just kind of came to is bullshit on both of them. This is a gray area subject, and a lot of conversation should happen no matter what when it comes to protecting human life, because we're talking about human life. Sound good?
Agreed.
All right. So now we're going to get, I think, into a deeper subject, and we're going to start talking about abortion rates, hyper specifically here in the United States. And we're going to, I think this is going to be one of the harder parts, because we're going to have racial overtone. We're going to have women overtone versus male overtone. This will go into the pro-choice. Is culture steering us down a murder path? Are we a self-induced genocide based on some of the stats we're about to read? And we're going to get into that next. So without further ado. All right, now let's get into her body, her choice. This pro-choice argument that women do not want their bodies to be regulated by men, that they want the freedom to make the choice of abortion or going to term on their own. This is a subject that I do not like or do not agree with at all. If it takes two human beings to have a baby, then it should take two human beings to make a decision on that baby. And we're going to talk about a father's rights, which he has very little rights when it comes to this subject. So women always talk about their right to choose. But then what are you stealing from your husbands and your boyfriends and your potential fathers when you give them absolutely no right to choose? And if you have that baby, they owe child support. If you don't have that baby, they just have to be good with it. And, I'm sure it's cost a lot of relationships. I know people who've walked away from a relationship because the woman wants to have that choice, and the man's like, but we decided to have babies together. And now you're changing your mind when we have one, and men feel pretty shafted by this. And I don't think I'm speaking by myself. I think in general, if you let men talk about this, they're probably going to talk closer to how I'm talking. Like, how is my offspring not my choice? How is that baby inside your womb your body, your choice? That body doesn't belong to you. That's its own body. Where did the freaking baby get a choice in whether it gets to live or not? Because if you're talking about your body, that clump of cells isn't your body. As soon as it's conceived, it's another human being's body at the earliest stage of development. And anyway, through the maternity in the 9 months, that body is inside your body. That body does not belong to you. You are only 50% of that body's DNA, and there isn't a connection that you have that a man doesn't have, other than, you feel the womb, it's in your body. I'm not talking about not feeling your pregnancy. I'm meaning when that baby comes out, it doesn't feel more mentally connected to a father or a mother. Those are environmental conditions that happen. and depending on which parent spends time with the child, but there's not some documented connection between mother and children that doesn't happen between father and children, because DNA is 50% from either side. So pro-choice, I've outlined a lot of these. What you got, Dave?
Well, I think here's where I'm probably going to take the more liberal road, and there's probably going to be the exciting part of the discussion, because I mean, I get the whole the dad should have a choice too. I think in a perfect world, two people make the decision about what's best for both of them.
Is that how liberals talk about it?
No, I
you're
don't
talking
think
about
so.
it from we should morally and correctly have this good conversation about fathers and mothers making this choice.
Yeah.
But then you say you're going to argue with me that it's a woman's choice, that it's her body, her choice. So you're conflicting yourself. I mean, you're being a hypocrite or a bigot or both.
I think, for me, I'm not the one carrying it to term. Yes, I have had a part in creating it. Now, if I really wanted to have that kid, then yes, I think that I
So you
would
just
want
argue
more,
that your
I
two
would
children
want more
don't belong
say.
to you as much as they belong to the mom because she carried them. She has more ownership over them.
Nope, didn't say that. Didn't
What
say
did you
that
say?
at all. I
Sounded
said that
like that's what you said.
If I say I got a girl pregnant prior, we're not together, we're not married, we're not even in a relationship, let's say. Yes, it is my offspring. I think, and I'm only speaking for myself, I'm cool with the abortion because I probably don't want the kid in the first place. If it's a position where you're in a relationship with somebody, yes, I think you got to be 50-50 because it is. It is part you, it's part them. But I'm just saying that a lot of...
You know, one of the left sides, another thing I don't agree with is this idea that all these babies that have been aborted are aborted out of one-night stands and out of non-loving relationships. And I call bullshit. I know that 60-70% of these are from people in loving relationships that say they're not ready, and or one of them isn't ready or had been cheating on the other and it's not stable. And so I think there's reasons outside that, but I think it is a left misnomer or miscommunication or tactic to say that all of these abortions are coming from one-night stands or rape or incest. And you're talking such a small percentage. And most people who engage in sex actually care about the person they're engaging sex with.
So I guess my question to you would be, if the woman didn't carry the baby, if you carried the baby, do you think the woman should have the ultimate say in what happens to you?
I believe wholeheartedly that the right to have an abortion should follow equally on the woman and the man. I know it's super unpopular because you're saying, well, you're a man, you're going to regulate your girl's body. I didn't just regulate a random girl's body. I regulated a woman who said she loved me and wanted to have kids with me. And even if I was in a girlfriend relationship, we hadn't talked about kids yet, but I'm practicing intercourse with a female of my species, knowing that the outcome could be that we have a baby. I have to be a man, and I am a man. I come from an old school masculine thing where we stand up and we take care of our children. I was excused from taking care of my daughter. I refused. I was in my daughter's life every other day. I paid for all the child support, all the diapers, all the daycare. The woman didn't pay for anything. And yet, so I took my first child on as this is my male responsibility. She decided to have the kid. Now I'm going to give the kid the life that I can give, and I'm going to influence this child and be in their life. So, no, I took the responsible approach.
I'm not going to say that's rare because I'm sure it's very common. I do think there are the opposite exceptions.
I think it's rare in our culture, honestly.
But I guess my point is, if you're, say, if you have to be the one to carry the child, I don't want to say put yourself in a woman's position, but say the roles were reversed. First of all, if the roles were reversed and men were the one that were carrying the babies, I believe there would be abortions that would be very red.
Let's talk about that. I'm going to go into an interesting fact I always talk about on this subject. What is the world record in all human history of a woman having babies? Meaning, the woman who had the most babies in human history, how many babies is it?
At one time?
At one woman's life, she had as many babies as she could. What's the world record? I know of two. One, I think they're both Russian, which is kind of funny. One was at like 22. She had a lot of triples and quadruples. Yeah. But I think there was one woman that hit like 40, 50, like an astronomically high number compared to all the other women in history. Were generally 14, 13, somewhere in there is like the cap out. But most people, 8, like Mormon families or whatever, were going into cultures that have a lot of children. Yeah. Most of us have 2.5 children.
Sure. I always wondered what that 0.5 was.
Yeah, but a woman, the high, and let's just take the high numbers. Let's say 50. I don't even think it was 50. Yeah. I think it was, like, realistically, it was 22 or 28 by this Russian woman who had a lot of twins and triplets and whatnot. And she was a traditional woman in that there was a man, and it was her job to make babies, and they were all good with that. So they had 20-something babies. Maybe this one was 60. You think that's a big, let's even say it was 60. Now let's talk about men. How many people do you think Genghis Khan penetrated and had children with to be the one DNA that almost shows up in everybody's DNA, that you can find some form of Genghis Khan? I think they say in 1 in 3 humans on this earth you can find Genghis Khan blood. How many people did he impregnate? So he brought life to this world in the hundreds, if not thousands. He's not the world record holder. There is a prince, I believe in India, who spent his royal fortune in life impregnating women. He is said to have had 1,400 babies, where this man impregnated, I don't know if it was 1,400 women, may have been 1,000 women, they had multiple children, but he had 1,400 children. His quest was to beat Genghis Khan and having his family's DNA and more human beings on Earth. And at 1,400, you go 200-300 years out, this guy's DNA is going to be all over the place. But the thing that I'm talking about...
Elon Musk's is too. I think he's trying for the world record
Will
now.
Chamberlain got a lot going, right?
Like,
who's that guy? I hate the guy. He's all the talk show guy.
I think back to what I was asking is that, okay, if you're...
Well, you're not answering my question.
What was yours?
Do you see a difference in men who can give 1,400 babies and a woman who typically is going to give less than 20? Like, there's a difference psychology-wise. You're asking us to understand what it's like to have the baby. I don't think, first of all...
No, I'm not asking you what it's like to have the baby. I'm asking you to be if you were the ones that having the baby, and a woman was telling you whether to have the baby or not, would you listen to that woman? Would you let that woman tell you whether to have the baby and carry it to term or not? I understand if you're sitting there and you make an agreement.
It's the gray area that I talked about. It depends on whether I had given that woman promises and or discussions about having children and having family. Then I very much believe that responsible human beings, male and female, together form a partnership, and they should be making that decision together. Now, if I was with a woman and I was the man and I get to have a baby, if someone raped me and I had that, well then no, the woman doesn't get a choice in it. If she raped me, she wouldn't get a choice in it. Like, I'm getting rid of your baby.
If you both met at a party and you went home together and she got you pregnant, are you letting her dictate?
Can we talk about having a baby, not me having a baby?
You're
the one who put your legs up in the air and got pregnant.
I know the answer. My answer would be like, fuck no, I'm not letting this woman dictate whether I have my baby or not. But that's my whole point, is I think, are you going to sit there and tell me that you would be cool with this woman being the one to tell you whether you can't have that baby or not? And I think the answer
I
would be no.
believe I believe I would opt for more responsible. I think it takes two to tango. It should take two to make the decision. I think if I was the one who could be pregnant, maybe there is a little bit more weight on my decision. I have to go through this 9-month period, financially, health-wise, physically. It's exhausting. You feel ugly.
You can't work for a couple of the months.
I mean, when people talk about who's better, women or men, I always say, like, my wife is so much better than me. Like, equality, nothing. I can't keep up with her. She's a better human than I am because she's female, is how I think about this. So when you reverse this and ask what I do, I still think it's
That's
a
where I
gray
fall.
conversation.
But that's where I find that on the liberal talking point of the woman saying it's my body, my choice, I agree with that in the fact that they're the ones ultimately that have to carry the baby, and if the guy is not around, has to support the baby. We're not talking about a perfect relationship. We're not talking about somebody who's in a relationship for however long and decide, even if they do decide, you know what, financially or whatever, right now is not the right time for me to have the baby. I'm talking about just the whole my body, my choice thing. And why are you as a man are not going to let a woman control your body, so why should a woman let a man control her body? That's the talking point.
I think we could go into a talking point. Another podcaster does this. He talks about force and women and men. And if you're talking about me as a man, I have the baby. If I still have my man qualities of being stronger and bigger and more violent, well, then no woman's going to tell me what to do because I have the force to stop a woman from telling me what to do. Whereas a woman in the smaller body without the
help of a gun.
Yeah, well, yeah, but men shoot better. Like, in every sport, it's proven. Like, even in the game of pool, which has nothing to do with physical strength, there's men division in pool leagues versus women's division, and the best women do not beat the best men. That's why they created female and male divisions, even in the game of pool, which has nothing to do with strength.
I played against Jeanette Lee.
I've been had my ass kicked by a woman, but I'm also not the world's greatest male pool player either. So you have to compare great to great, not great to good.
No, I did go to the national finals in the APA. I finished 33rd out of 180 in my division. But yeah, no, I was no match. This was a exhibition that she was putting on, and people got to play her, and I got smoked. But I don't even know if I got a shot in. It was 9-ball. But I mean, I'm just saying that
I think we're talking about an impossible subject. Like, a man's not going to be, this is one of the things with the transgender argument. I don't care how much you want to be a woman, you'll never understand what it is to be impregnated. You will never understand the vulnerability of being the smaller of the species and what it means to seek protection versus not having to seek protection. So I think we're getting way off on a tangent. I'm going to wrap this one back into, I think the ultimate topic is, are you pro-choice, it's my body, it's my choice. You are siding with it's the woman's body, it's her choice. I'm saying I am not siding with the far right that men get to make a choice, but I am saying this is a middle of the road subject. If you are in a typical adult relationship, be it a one-night stand or be it a loving relationship, I think that creates an area where it's both people's argument to make and debate to make, and I think society should cherish that ability for men and women to deal with the consequences of their sex life together, and that should be an overall boundary system so we do this together. And then I do support the idea that it is the woman's body. Sure. I do think she has greater voting power. She has to go through it. But I don't think she should have ultimate voting power, especially if I was in a relationship. I wanted to have this child. She promised me a child. We had that child, and then she changed her mind because now she's wasted my time. I could have been with a woman that gave me children and wanted to have children with me, and this woman has now wasted my time and lied to me because when it came down to it, she bailed on my child. And as a man, I'm sorry. It may be your body, but I don't think it's totally your choice. I have an argument that equally, it should be our choice. And I do give favor to the woman because they do have the responsibility of caring, and I think they are better humans than men because in their nurturing, let's go back to I can have 1,400 children. She can only have 10. So she's going to nurture more. She's going to care more. It's more important to her. It's more protective, and that's why I think they're better humans. If we're talking about equality, I think we're equally human, but not equal at all. And in this case, I give the equality nudge to the woman over the man, but I still think men should have a choice.
And again, I took the liberal talking point. I do agree that if you're in a relationship with somebody and you get pregnant, you need to talk about it. I don't think it should be the woman just walking away saying, "No, we're not having a baby. That's the end of discussion." I think you need to sit down and talk about it.
And we're all talking about mistakes too, right? We're talking. You mentioned one night stand. You mentioned having when we're loving, and then a baby came along where we didn't actually sit down to make love. Like when I'm going to get in trouble, like R. Kelly, one of my favorite songs of all time in romances, "Let's Go Half on a Baby." And if like you played that song prior to his drama. Let's just go back when you could listen to R. Kelly. And you played that song on a romantic date with a woman you love.
You're having a baby.
Oh my God, you are having a baby. It is such a powerful song. So it's like, so let's start talking about the pro-choice from a standpoint. Your choice isn't just abort or not abort. You had a choice to close your legs. You had a choice to stay abstinent from sex. You could have saved yourself from marriage. I know that
not if you listen to R. Kelly.
Not if you, yeah, no. You
and I don't think that. And R. Kelly should have made the song that, like, I'm gonna give you something to make a decision about.
Yeah. Or something. Let's go half on a choice.
Let's go half on a choice, exactly.
Let's go half on a choice. That's hilarious. So, and it's another thing I don't like is because when the left goes and they push this topic so much so that you can't even meet me who's a liberal. I mean, look at my tattoos. Look at my children. Look at my whole entire career. I have clearly been more liberal than Republican or conservative, but I can't even bring up these things of like, what if I think a better humanity actually was when we kept more clothes on and we kept decency and we kept respect, and you didn't go on a first date and get laid. You went on a first date and got to first base if you were lucky. And I think when humans were like that, we were more romantic. I think we were more respectful. If you look at society, we were skinnier. We were more freaking gentlemanly. The women were more respectful. To men, to each other. Like society has slipped when we've decided that the only choice is abortion. No, there was a choice not to have sex. There was a choice to give or get a blowjob. Anal sex was the other one I laugh at, but nonetheless, that's a choice. Or abstinence is a choice. There's several options that don't mean that we have to have sexual intercourse between men and women and act like having babies doesn't happen. Babies happen.
I think this gets into the whole topic of education and sex education, which is another whole.
It is a can of worms because when sex education went into high schools in the 70s and 80s, we had a huge boom in pregnancies amongst teenagers. Now, which is strange, is the years following we had a decline in abortions after sexual education. However, we had a population boom across the planet where 4 billion people turned to 8 billion people in less than 50 years. So abortion, not abortion, it's a complicated, I think when you go into these stats, it can be very, very complicated. I really just wish human beings would take and look at that pro-life person with their Christian or Muslim or Jewish views or whatever religious views and find the integrity in it. Instead of finding them as being your enemy, how about instead you take advice and maybe slow down a little bit, maybe be a little bit more cautious. What is it going to hurt you? You can still be pro-choice and provide a little caution in your sex life. Like we talked about wearing condoms. When I was young, I didn't wear condoms a lot. I hated them. They were tight. They didn't fit good. I guess that's a good thing. I feel like a girthy male Rubbers hurt me, so I decided not to use them during the AIDS crisis in the late 80s, 90s. But why can't we make better choices? Why can't society be about helping humans make more disciplined choices? Why does the choice always have to be sexual freedom before sexual responsibility?
It's a good argument.
So make it.
No, I'd say we need to. I'd say we need to. The people do need to be responsible, and I, for one, was pretty responsible. That's why maybe I'm not grasping a lot of this, because I knew that if you touched on the timing, the late '80s, early '90s, and that's that whole AIDS thing that scared the shit out of me. Didn't want any kind of sexual disease or anything else, but also didn't want to have a kid. I didn't want to get somebody pregnant, and so I did use that. And then the girls that I was with that we had a relationship with, we went into having them get on birth control or whatever, and before we had unprotected sex. But I don't know. I can't. I'm trying to think. Like, I didn't learn that much in like a sex ed at high school. We didn't learn that much, and it wasn't really like my mom taught me either. I guess just from talking with your kids.
In school. I don't know what. With our kids coming out of high schools, and let's face it, America's academic scoring is through the floor. We went from being one of the most great nations with intelligence and scholastic to falling out completely in 3 or 4 decades. I think we should be learning about the credit system. I think we should be learning about the bankers who rob us blind, and the governments that overtax us, and the financial institutions that have turned us into slaves. I mean, most of us have credit cards that charge 29 and 30%. This is absolute rape financially by people in the power to keep your credit score low so that you buy your Chevy at 18% interest instead of 0% interest. And we should be educating children on math and science and history and topics of economics. Like, nobody in high school teaches you about your credit score. I'm 55 years old and I'm still perplexed on what is right or wrong in dealing with credit and the ability to buy things. But we have time to teach someone else's child about your view of sexuality. And here's where I'm with straight parents. Like, you have no business teaching my kid anything about homosexual or lesbian or transgender sexual topics. It's not your business. I didn't freaking sign up or agree to this. And if I had kids again, you better believe I would homeschool them. There's no way I'm putting my children into a school district that says it has the right to teach my kids in 2nd grade about giving anal sex between whether it's women or men. Everybody picks on you like I'm saying that, no, you shouldn't be thinking about men having anal sex. No, you shouldn't be teaching a 5-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old about anal sex in general. Like, it's not a topic for school. We're getting into a different podcast.
I think I can agree with that.
But, I don't think sex education should be in school. I do believe that we should educate, and I hope that the conversations like this, where we throw away the fringes and we can talk about some middle-minded approaches to sexuality and abortion, is a better route. So on that, I'm going to segue to something that was near and dear to me, and that was my firstborn child was not with a woman I loved. And yes, I did ask to abort the child, and the woman involved did not. To save that relationship, my daughters, I'm not going to go too far into this, but the bottom line is, when they had the baby, I had the baby, I immediately took it every other day, sometimes multiple times per week. I paid for all the diapers, all the daycare, all the food. I paid for everything, 100% of it. The mom didn't pay for anything except for the shelter, which she was on welfare and Social Security to get. But I paid for everything else. I stood up to my responsibility. I didn't have a court order for child support. I just gave the woman $100 bills anytime I had extra money, and I wrote checks and whatnot. I'm not going to go into my story how the court system betrayed me as a father, but simply to say that if you say pro-choice, it's my body, it's my choice, and the father says, I don't want to have that child, then why can't the father sign a document or have the state go, look, I gave an affidavit, I don't want this child. If that woman chooses to have my child, that's on her financially. Because where's my right to have my sperm, my choice?
That's a great, I can't argue with that. That's a great argument.
I think that's a great. I think we need to make that the new war cry for the people that lean a little more right. Is my sperm, my choice.
Well, then they're going to go back and say you should have kept your legs close.
Exactly like what we're saying with them. So,
But
are we meeting in the
think,
ground that men or women, it's the
yeah,
same choice? Be a little bit more responsible. Let's not end up in these conversations.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's unfortunate that we have to even end up in a position of abortion, other than say for medical, complications in the pregnancy, and the sad part is that that's those are the people that don't want to have the abortion, and it's.
I don't know. The reality is the human life we're talking about doesn't belong to the mother or the father. It belongs to them equally. That's how DNA works. And I think there should be a more equal conversation.
And it would belong to the kid, right? The kid doesn't have a choice.
And it's his body or her body.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong to either of the adults in the equation. So why can't we have a civil conversation without villainizing someone who wants to say, but wait a minute, let's talk about men's choices.
Again, it comes down to where it's gone politically. It really does. It's back when Roe v. Wade was originally the land of the law of the land rather. That was during that whole women's feminist movement in the 70s, and so it was a big win for that. And then again, overturn something that had been the law of the land for so long, and now it's a win for the other side.
I think that
so
gets missed down because
all political,
the reversal was
all political.
Not to take away abortion in the United States. It was return it to the states,
Sure.
And let local communities decide. Because California is a lot different than Texas. As we all know from the mass exodus in California, where they all went to Texas to go get those values because they didn't align with California's values anymore. So you saw mass redistribution from politics over that 5-year period. And when I'm talking mass,
Now they're
I'm
all
talking
crossing.
the largest
Now they're all
mass
crossing the
migration
borders.
of human beings in hundreds of years.
Now all those people are crossing the border to get an abortion if they want one. It's not.
That's
It's not
a drama point. Come on, we all have cars and buses. Getting to an abortion clinic a state away, and you can go, okay, well, poor people. Well, if you're poor, then you don't have, because we aren't equal. If a rich person can get there quicker and easier, well, that's their prerogative, that's their privilege. If you're poor and you can't live in your reality.
My point was you mass exit from California because you want things on Texas's stuff, but then now you want to leave Texas to get an abortion because you can't get one there.
You can get an abortion in Texas.
I don't know.
You gotta have these hit facts. You can't just randomly.
I don't know what the laws. I don't know what the laws are
sure.
in Texas now.
But let's talk about that, because we talked about Roe versus Wade, and this is we're going to get in a race subject right now.
I think my point, though, that I want to just make is that it's all about political. And I understand going back to the states. I understand that. That's fine. And you know what? There has not been a push for a nationwide abortion ban, which a lot of people were fearing under Trump. It hasn't come yet. Will it come? I don't know. It could. If it goes the way of Project 2025, that's in there. So that's what I think people were. A lot of stuff. 30% of that has come to fruition. So is it down the line? I can't say. Right. But if it was just sending it back, I think I think a lot of people on the left look at it as that's just the starting point of the power grab to
I think
that.
Doomsday is a liberal freaking, It's your number one go-to. We're going to talk about how it's all going to fall.
It's
Since
a go-to
the
for the
day
right
Donald
too, though.
Trump got office,
It's a-
Hitler's in office, we're going to war. And yeah, sorry, he was the most peaceful president in 4 decades. So, and then when it was debunked and he was the most peaceful, you still got a second thing. You're still saying Armageddon, he's going to go. I don't want to get off on Trump and politics. I agree that politics is in this subject, so let's talk about what we agree with. I also want to talk about this as another division thing. And one of my biggest points on the abortion topic is going to be race-centric. And the fact is, in the United States of America, black women abort babies 4.3 to 1 of white babies being aborted. Hispanics are the next. Then 9% is like mixed, so Indians and Turkish, Afghanistan, and then white people are actually low in this category. We have 6% abortion rate. So for every 1 white baby aborted, a black woman has aborted 4 babies. Now, I'm not saying that 1 woman's aborted 4 babies. I'm saying per capita, when you look at 1 million African American women and 1 million white American women, though black women have aborted 4 times as many babies. When you take that since Roe versus Wade up until 2025, you're talking about 20 million aborted black babies to the 5 million, the 1 million of the other way around. So we're talking, is this what the person who made Planned Parenthood planned? That this is a self-induced genocide by people that are going to fight for their right to have and kill babies more than they're going to fight for their right to life. Then let me give you a topic. Like, what if these 20 million babies were more equal to the other races? Instead of being 4 to 1, what if some miracle you got 1 to 1 with every other race and all the races aborted babies equally, meaning that black women learned to reduce the number of abortions and white people stay the same, whatever? How many more black American citizens would we have? Would they still be a minority? If 10 million of those babies, just half of them, were not aborted, how many more black American citizens would we have?
Good point.
Self-induced genocide.
I think you got to ask why is the number that skewed?
Why did it after? Because we're talking about the freedom of black people at that time too. It used to be that 80% of black households were mother, father, and children in the household, and now 50 years later, that is reversed. Only 20% of black families in America have a mother and father in the house. The father is absentee most of the time. And I think that it, like, why is that? And why is it that somebody's going to be angry about me as a white man talking about it? For starters, you're acting like I don't have a black family and black friends. You're acting like I don't have Rastafarian colors on my arm, that I didn't have a hip-hop black record label that I owned. Like, you're going into my life and assuming I'm just white Nazi dude who voted for Trump. You're giving me no respect for the friends and family that I've had throughout my life, which black people have been near and dear to me. Leroy, our brother, was my brother. For 30 years, people get introduced to me and him as brothers. His mother was the most influential person in my life, Norma Magic Jackson. I was the only white person on stage at her funeral, bawling my eyes out. I lost my mom. And that's who this black family is to me. And yet, if I talk about a subject that's affecting black Americans, I'm told that I'm out of my lane, and as a white man, I'm not allowed to talk about it. But all I'm doing is carrying that I think this is an astronomical genocide, that if we could just talk to black culture and get them to understand, if you were to just change one thing, reduce your abortion rate in half, be 2 to 1, how many more black Americans would be in the majority voting population? This definitely would be a different percentage of black people alive in America if this one subject is broached and they make any decrease in the amount of abortions. I mean, this is self-induced genocide.
Do you think
Margaret Thatcher is in her grave going, woohoo, I got the black people to abort themselves. That's what she's doing. That's why Planned Parenthood was created. The woman who did it was involved in the Klan. She did abortion and put it into government arms because she, as she said, knew that black people would just jump on the train and start aborting their children. And here I am, a white man, caring about it, and I'm going to be villainized.
Why? But I want to go back to why. Like, why is it? Are they getting pregnant more often? If they're having abortions more often, are they getting pregnant more often? Why? What? I mean, there's got to be a reason that it's skewed.
Do you think it's
so
cultural?
much?
The sexualization of black culture through gangster rap and pop music, when WAP is the #1 song, when you, at the same year, you try to cancel an old jazz, ballad, but you tell all your black culture that I've got hoes in different area codes, we want some whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it. You had NWA admitting to being drug dealers, admitting to turn their sisters and their cousins and their neighbors into crack hoes. They called them strawberries, and then they wrote a song about how they gangbang the strawberries. You don't think it has anything to do with that black culture has allowed itself to degrade and glorify gangster drug dealers, pimps, and sexualized lives? That I think when a little black man is growing up, I think he's almost has an ambition to tear through as much ass as he can get his hands on, and then wonder why he's got 3 babies with 3 different women. Well, he just followed what you told him to do. And this isn't just part of black culture in America. This is a massive part of black, so much so that you have white boys dressing like gangsters. What we call them in the 90s, wigger? Am I allowed to say that word?
I don't know.
But in the 90s, we
anymore.
called white boys that dressed like gangsters and wanted to emulate black rap music wiggers. And we frowned on them. We were like, what are you doing? But what I'm bringing up is, isn't it the culture? It certainly isn't white people making black women have a bunch of pregnancies and abort babies. Like, that's such a leftist response to say that white oppression has called black women to abort babies.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
That's what they said in the cocaine epidemic, that white people bring in cocaine and delivered it to the black neighborhoods, and the reason that you're running a train on your strawberry hoe is because white people made you do it. That's what they said. That was the argument.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
This was 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, I heard the introduction of
cocaine.
crack. Maybe not cocaine. Cocaine was always I always saw that as like a celebrity drug. Not crack. Sure. Yeah.
And who invented crack?
Who was it?
Oh, go do the research.
Yeah. Google it.
Google it. Who invented the idea that black women can have 4 more abortions than any other race? Like, how did that happen? And why is it so controversial for me as a white man to stand up and say, I'm an American, though, and I care about American culture, and I'm noticing an anomaly that's 4-1, we've got a problem. Did you know that I think it's America, it could be the world, that 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in abortion? We're literally aborting 25% of our human life. That's all of us. That's all races.
That's also taking into account for medical reasons. It's not that just people, like a quarter of the world is deciding that they just want to abort people because
it is a bad stat. I think 1 in 4 is not a good look.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I didn't know that. But
4 babies to every one of another race. That's not a good look. And the Hispanics aren't that far behind, but they are behind.
That to me, that is crazy to me because I know that because this was a stat I looked up was who was the culture least with the least abortions, and Mexico was that where it was like 0.1.
Well, white doesn't mean Ireland, and Latino doesn't mean Mexican.
No, but when you have a culture that's, has that little abortion, that's part of a culture that has a higher rate of abortion.
And why
it's kind of crazy.
Why can't the races in the black women 4-1 abortion rate? Why is it so wrong for them to go learn from the races who have lower abortion rates? Like, it stands to me that that's common sense, but in this radical left and right, red and blue, conservative and liberal world that we're in, you can't get advice from the people who are better at the thing you're worse at. Like, it stands to me, like, with crime and whatnot. Like, let's go to lesbians. They actually have the highest rate of domestic violence. It's astronomically higher than gay couples or heterosexual couples.
Really?
It's actually lesbian couples. I'm not going to go into why I think that is, but why can't a lesbian listen to the people who are good at not doing domestic violence? Go into the races, go into the segments of culture, the social, the financial, the whatever demographic is, and go to the person who is better at this than you are and get advice. In America, what we've done is villainize the people that give advice and care. So if I care to reduce the number of abortions in my black fellow American citizens, I am ostracized, canceled. It hurts my business. I get called all kinds of foul names. And I'm simply going, well, why can't you listen? Like, if I want to become a better vocalist, don't I go listen to James Brown? Don't I go get a vocal coach? Well, why, if I want a culture to be better at abortions, can't they go listen to the other races that are better at not aborting babies?
You would think. Are we talking, also, I didn't clarify this, is that in the United States we're talking, not the world?
I would say it is. Like, we did a deep dive today before the episode, and some of these stats are global. Other of these stats are United States. My interest is more the United States.
Yeah.
What I consider the West would be secondary. So Europe. I thought it was funny. Europe is more progressive than us, but has less abortions. There is some crossover things with the world. You know, we didn't get into Nigeria or Congo, where there's mass populations. You know, there's the AIDS epidemic, for one, and that's something you have to talk about. Where in America it might have been more gay men. In other parts of the world, was it? Where they had a mass hit of AIDS, and the short answer is no. So I don't know. I think I would like society to get to a point where it could recognize care versus war or whatnot. And I think if the left and the right on the topic of abortion would start talking in the middle instead of left and right, we have better conversations. When we're talking about race relations, why can't people that are really good at not getting into violent crime and high murder rates help those in our culture who are leading in murder rates and violent crime? It stands to reason the very people you need to listen to are the opposite of you in this case when you're talking about abortions. But we villainize them. You can't go listen to white people. Why? They're good at it. Or they're not as bad at it. One of the two. Like, and we've done that.
Yeah, it was 1 to 4. I don't think we're very good at it. But
pretty interesting stats when you start talking about this. I think we've gone through most things. I think we are going to wrap this up. I kind of believe in sexual responsibilities. It goes to me, we have a lot of talk about our human rights, our freedoms, but we do not spend a lot of time talking about what human responsibility means. And we do not give a lot of groundwork to allow people to care about other people other than their sector. So if I'm a white heterosexual male, apparently I'm only allowed to talk to other white heterosexual males. I can't go talk to a bisexual male or a gay male and talk to them about some hard talking points. And that's what we've done. We've villainized anybody as, if I don't fly your flag, you must be Hitler. If I don't fly your flag, you must be homophobic. If I don't fly your flag, you must be this horrific name. It's like black or white. If you're not into my ideology, you must be evil. And that shit's got to stop.
Yeah, that's the polarization and political polarization, and that's why I hate both sides. And the further we get, the worse it's going to get. It's inevitable. You know, it's not, because nobody wants to give in on either side and say, you know what, you're right. you know what, that makes sense. It's got to be, nope, my opinion, my way is the only thing, and that's all I'm going to listen to. And we've pigeonholed ourselves into, even on social media, only following what echo chambers, our narrative. I'm not going to listen to the other side. I love doing that. I love listening to the other side. And a lot of times, honestly, I don't agree with that, but I listen to it a lot because I do want to hear other people's perspective. And there's got to be a reason for why you think this way. And I want to know what that reason is.
You know, we didn't get into that we talked about was fertility rates amongst women and then testosterone rates in men. So one of the stats, and we're going to use this one to wrap it up, is in the last 50 years, testosterone rates amongst males have dropped by 50%. So if you talk
to 1% a year, Pete.
Huh?
That's 1% a year.
Over 50 years? Yeah, we're dropping testosterone to the point that nobody's asking why is there all of a sudden more feminized metrosexual and a large push in transgenderism, as if there's no consequence to something. Like, clearly something has happened where they have a measurable testosterone drop in males across humankind of a 50% drop. So we're not in wartime. It's a good thing because all of us men are apparently 50% less potent. And I don't mean as baby makers. I mean the testosterone that makes us warriors and makes us firemen and makes us oil rig workers and gives us our force to be men. And actually we build everything. And there's not a lot of cinder block wielding women out there. That's a man's job. And where does this fit in, like, why can't we look at this testosterone drop in men and wonder what's going on? Why can't we look at the fertility rates of women, which is, I forget the stat, I don't want to misquote it, but it's large. I don't want to missay this, but the drop in fertility of women in the last 50 years has astronomically declined. So they talk about abortion rates staying even, but they're not bringing any statistical data on this drop in testosterone. I mean, they say 40% of young men are asexual nowadays, meaning they don't have sex. They watch porn. They stay in their parents' basement.
That should help with the abortion rate, then.
And that's what they say is like the abortion rate's staying even, but it's not staying even. They're not accounting for this 40% of young men that aren't even having sex anymore, and they're not accounting for the huge incline in women who are unfertile and can't have babies. And I'm over here wondering, why aren't we talking about why that happened?
I was shocked when you pulled that stat up earlier when we were talking about this. And what do you think it is? What are the reasons? Why are people, I mean,
I think it's a lot of what we're talking about. I think culturally, the acceptance of free sex over everything else has some impact. I believe when you have an entire mass population turn to fantasy sex and masturbation versus actual sex with an intimate partner, you have a tendency to go down this. But more importantly, you know, it's what RFK has kind of been working on, which kind of shocks me when liberals are so mad at a ex-Democrat trying to make us healthy, because he's talking about the food dyes. He's talking about the plastic bottles. Like when you drink a bottle of water, those plastics are known to give the human body a chemical that they think is making the testosterone levels drop. And then they talk about food preservatives, pesticides, things like growth hormone, making us fat. So we have an obese nation. Well, guess what happens when you have obesity? You have a dick that doesn't work.
Yeah.
The first thing that goes when you get fat and obese is your dick stops working because your prostate grows and shrinks the canal, and a bunch of things line up.
And your heart can't pump the blood fast enough.
You can't pump the blood to keep a heart on.
Obesity is a huge.
Yeah, but we glorified obesity over here the last decade. It's funny now that they're selling them all a drug to not be fat. I think I think the billionaires purposely fattened us up, and now they're purposely selling us the get skinny Ozempic. And they're ignoring the fact that in that process they sterilized both men and women, and we've created a feminized male population. I don't think it was like you said toxic masculinity. I think that was a huge part of it. That was such a robbery of masculinity's stance and our good. You know, masculinity can be toxic, but it also is what built this world. It's also what won America. If you want to hate our founders, but you sure love our Constitution.
I think there's a difference, and this is, I don't want to get into another topic, but I think there's a huge difference between masculinity and misogyny. And I don't think that's talked about, and people just, obviously, I get it. I see it out there. I've read a lot of stuff, you know, different comments, and it's all like, oh, you know, just because he's a man, now he's a toxic man or whatever. And sure, men have done a lot of toxic things, but it's not all of us, you know. And
well, we talked about Margaret Thatcher in this abortion debate and what she did to
the Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher.
Is that the wrong one? I'm sorry,
UK Margaret Thatcher.
I'm the abortion lady.
I don't know.
The woman who put Planned Parenthood into government assistance.
Okay.
And God, I totally got that name wrong.
I was like, what is the UK Prime Minister in the 80s have to do with that?
But we're going to have to cut that out of here.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up because we were really talking about abortion. We got into this conversation about dropping testosterone, fertility of women. The reason I brought that up is that's not showing up in the higher abortion rates. So it's easy to say that abortion rates are kind of doing a little, you know, up then down, but I call bullshit because it's not accounting for the fact that less people are having sex because we have this male population who's asexual and female population, but it's affected young men greatly. We have an autistic rise that's unprecedented in human history with people having mental disorders and mental deficiencies. And instead of talking about those, we're yelling at red or blue or left or right. And in this conversation, I wanted to stop talking about pro-choice and pro-life and start talking about what it is. We are talking about snuffing out life, and I think human beings should talk about being responsible when it comes to pro-choice. That'll do it, huh?
Yeah, I think
right.
so.
Another episode of Middle Minded. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Let's do it, y'all. Peace and love.
Peace and love.